Welcome to The Victory Show.
Hey, Victors, welcome to this episode of The Victory Show. If this is the first time you're joining us, I'm Travis Cody, best-selling author of 16 books, and I've had the privilege of helping hundreds of business consultants, founders, entrepreneurs write and publish their own best-selling books as well. And during that journey, I've discovered a really fascinating pattern. Many businesses hit a revenue plateau, usually around $1 million, and they struggle to break through it. So on this show, I sit down with some of the world's most successful CEOs, founders, leaders, and business owners to uncover the strategies they use to overcome that plateau and scale their business to new heights so that you can do the same thing. So get ready for some deep insights and actionable takeaways that you can implement in your life and business starting right away. Today's guest is the kind of woman who doesn't just overcome obstacles, she builds empires from them. Jill McHugh grew up in rural poverty outside of fading mill town in South Carolina, and she was the first in her family to go to college. And that was even after everyone told her, don't go. I'm sure we've all kind of been there. The little hooks they're trying to pull you back in. But Jill had other plans. Fortunately for us, she left, she hustled, and she's never looked back. From social worker to nonprofit executive, she quickly found her zone, stepping into interim leadership roles where she assesses, fixes, and scales with fearless precision. And alongside her husband, she's built and sold businesses. She launched a virtual therapy firm. She co-founded a startup called Cardberry, which we'll talk about because it's really interesting. And in 2024, she and her husband took over the Chelsea, an iconic multi-million-dollar restaurant in New Bern, Carolina, with a legacy as rich as the town's history, including Elvis Presley's favorite booth and more. Jill is a woman of multiple revenue streams, limitless resources, and a deep belief that being bossy is a superpower, especially when it's channeled into purpose. Her life is a testament to betting on yourself, honoring where you came from, and building a future that no one thought was possible except for her. So, Jill, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me,
You
Travis.
know, in today's culture, the whole like the term boss girl is kind of the acronym now, but you were the original bossy.
Probably starting at 5 years old, I I acquired that reputation from family.
So was your grandfather so you said something about your grandfather gave you a quote that I love. Do you want to share that with the
Yeah, so we talked earlier. I was growing up. I kind of was the one pointing fingers and giving the orders, and family would always joke, "Oh, Jill's so bossy." And I just remember my grandfather, who was my favorite person, most influential person in my life, and kind of really was the wind beneath my wings. I remember him saying, "Sugar, somebody's got to be bossy, and it might as well be you that does it." And it just kind of resonated with me. And as I moved through school and college, grad school, and my career, and it just was, somebody's got to do it. It might as well be
Sure.
me.
Yeah, that was one of the lessons when I got to college I was actually surprised at is how few people actually wanted to be a leader and how many
Mhm.
people just wanted a leader to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that is a superpower and it is needed. So you have a 3-year-old daughter. Is she bossy?
She is, and I try not to use the word bossy, and it was always stuck out as a negative word in my
Sure.
mind until I came into it in my late 20s. And so now, if somebody uses the word bossy around her, I am quick to jump in and say that's a great leadership skill.
Sure.
Like, embrace it.
Yeah, I was just curious if the genes passed on. So we've got bossy squared.
You should ask my husband about that.
So let's talk a little bit about growing up in a town that was a former mill town. So was the mill still going when you were growing up, or had it kind of closed down and the city was just kind of in a slow decline at that point?
It was in the early 90s that it shut down.
Mm.
It was in our county, we had 5 textile mills,
Oh,
and they phased out in the late 80s or early
is
90s. A
that
lot
like
of people,
50% of the jobs of the
yeah,
county?
lost their jobs. It
Yeah,
was just, I mean, no new industry came to town. It was just, it always, unfortunately, has been this just dying rural area in the upstate of South Carolina, 45 minutes off of any major highway or interstate. And the school that I went to is the smallest public school in the state. I had the same 18 people that I started with in kindergarten or graduated with, on a
yeah,
s-
that's
on
that's
a
small.
yeah, very small. And, there were a lot of perks to growing up in a really like extremely small town. But the exposure was not there really. And so luckily I had a few folks in my life that just really pushed and said, you got to get out of here. You got to do something and not just, kind of stay and settle for a 9 to 5, which there's nothing wrong with that if that's your
Sure.
thing. Um, and so, I mean, yeah, I kind of moved to college and kind of really never looked back.
Right. So was college a kind of a way out? Did you know what you wanted to do going into college, or did you just sort of find your way when you were there?
Yeah, so started working when I was 15. My mom has an incredible work ethic. And so I was a nursing major. I went to the University of South
Oh,
Carolina, going from 18 people in your graduating class to, Psych 101 with a class of 250 people is a culture shock, even if it was only an hour or so down the road. And so I was like, oh, I'll be a nurse, and then quickly figured out biology was not my thing. And long story short, I needed a job, and I found this part-time job at a clinic in town in Columbia, working with Medicaid patients and kids in foster care. Fell in love, head over heels in love with kids that were in foster care, and just started like doing extra projects, finding prom dresses and making sure they had Christmas presents. And so
wow.
one day, one of the nurse practitioners came in my office and she said, "Hey, do you want to be our social worker?" And I remember asking Jeeves, "What does a social worker do?" And it was kind of like this just, aha moment. And it was like, oh, this is for me. And so changed majors, dove in, got my master's in social work, and started out in school social work, and then found that being in a system, following others was not easy for me. And so, yeah, stumbled into the nonprofit world and just kind of evolved from there into leadership.
Wow. So so at an early age, impact was very big in what you were doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd always had this heart for helping others, and it was like, oh, this is a career. And I can, right, like this is a career, and I can really change. It's my whole career has been, how can I jump in and help change the trajectory of someone's life that just needs something, whether it's
Sure.
tangible or a resource, whatever it may be. And so it's been about storytelling, helping someone else's story. And so, I mean, this clinic was really kind of the fire starter for that.
Wow. So how do you pivot out of social work and nonprofit work into entrepreneurship? What's that journey look like?
Yeah. Well, so I got into the nonprofit world as starting as a crisis counselor, and then worked my way into an executive director role, and took that and ran with it within a certain nonprofit. We created programs, we tripled the budget,
Wow.
like tripled our fundraising efforts. We were the first residential home for kids that were homeless and not any system. So kids ages 17 to 19 or so that were
Mm.
homeless because family members had passed away, parents were on drugs, whatever the case was. There was
Well, and
nowhere in our state.
I was gonna say the foster care too. People don't like the thing that doesn't get a pay attention to is kids age out.
Yes,
You
and there's
being
nowhere for them to
yeah,
go.
foster care, and then 18, they're like, good luck. And it's like,
Yeah. And someone I can remember, like, I was at a board meeting and they were like, well, we can't really do anything about that. And it was like, you know what? Like, hold my beer. Yes, we can. Like, we
oh,
can write a grant, can add these beds. So by the time we left, we went from 4 beds to 60 something beds for these kids
wow.
aging out. I mean, it was this incredible program that we had. Anyway, so got married, married this guy that had the same entrepreneurial spirit, high level, great business acumen. It's super visionary. And we just meshed and worked well on all levels, not just business. Okay. So,
Sure.
I mean, you can't just like marry a business partner and whatever. I mean, I guess you can. Anyway, So
They do it in Hollywood all the time.
right,
And I'm going
right.
to say there's not
It
the
wasn't a business
longevity isn't super
transaction.
great on those, but
Right. Right. But when I was 23, I was like, I really want to buy a house. Like that's a goal. I want to buy my own house. And I did. I bought a foreclosure and I was like, oh, this is great. And so then 3 years later, I bought a second house and I said, well, I'll rent out my first house for extra income. So I had that house for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. But the second house I bought had a mother-in-law suite that was completely separate in the bottom. So I rented that out as well to traveling nurses through Airbnb. So I had
wow.
had a job. I taught at USC on an adjunct level. And then I had these two passive income streams from rental properties. And I was crazy as what this was. And so we sold, a house or whatever. And then we ended up, my husband's a man of many talents and he had been in the restaurant chef life. And when we got married, he was doing basically heavy civil work, fine grading, excavating, and we bought equipment and opened our own construction business. Yeah, it did really well. And then when the economy started to plummet, we sold out. And I'll tell you that again, read this or heard this in an audiobook audiobook, that one of the best things, one of the most successful decisions you can make is knowing when to jump ship.
Mm,
And it's not failure if you sell out or if you stop or jump ship. It's actually smart doing it at the right time
yep.
before, you plateau maybe. But when you start to do this, you need to jump out. And so we were fortunate and we jumped out for 3 or 4 years ago. And
So did
um
you help him manage the paving business, or was that his own thing and you had your own stuff going on?
So, well, yes and no. So I did the books, the behind the scenes, the accounting, the book stuff, the boring stuff. He's incredible with marketing and sales. That's in his realm. And during that time, I was doing some interim and consulting work. So I worked with nonprofits, kind of jumping in as interim executive directors and saying, "Oh, here's how we can evolve and grow. Let's, double your budget or, whatever your programs or whatever." So I would jump in, kind of fix things, put the permanent people in place and jump back out and then jump into another nonprofit. And while we had this construction business going, and then, when we sold out, it was like, oh, what do we want to do next? And I'll tell you, Travis, we looked at so many businesses. I never want to look at people's financials again. Okay. Vetting businesses.
Well, at least
So
you had the opportunity to take a step back now and go, okay, really, what do we want to do? But I just
yeah,
want to bring something up here. Your husband's
yeah,
running a successful business, you're helping it, and on the side is your hobby. You're going into nonprofits and fixing them. I love
right.
that that was your hobby. You're like, oh
hmm
yeah, what do you? Oh, I'll go in there and fix this guy's for him, get him set
Yeah.
straight.
While we had this newborn, I mean, so while she's
So,
like hanging out over here while I'm on Zoom calls.
so when you guys started looking at businesses, did you have an idea of what, or did you just start looking into everything that was for sale? You started looking at.
So we knew there were basically two stipulations. We wanted to acquire a business. We didn't want to go into the startup world. We wanted to acquire, and it had to have real estate with it. Because if you're leasing, I will die on this hill, fall on this sword, whatever. Purchasing the real estate is just much more lucrative in the long run than leasing.
Yeah.
So it had to have real estate and it couldn't be a startup.
That seemed to have worked out okay for the McDonald's.
Yes, 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 right. And so I mean we vetted laundromats, and we looked at gas stations, medical equipment companies, and it was all kind of based on like their business model and their historical financials. Because this was going to be basically the bank for our startup Cardberry, which we can talk about later. And my husband's Greek and he's an incredible chef and his love language is food, and that's how he cares for people. And in the 10 years that we've been together, I've heard dozens of people say, you need to have a restaurant. You need to own a restaurant. And he swore he would never have a restaurant. and then we bought a restaurant.
Now, did it just sort of show up for you? Like it was not on the radar, and then you just went and looked at it and went, okay, we can't say no to this.
It really just popped up. I think I said to him one day, I was like, I cannot comb through financials anymore. We need to take a break from looking at businesses. And I mean, we were traveling multiple states looking at different businesses. And he's an avid fisherman and we love the coast. And, we wanted to be on the coast. And so he was like, I found this restaurant is it comes with real estate. It has, this large catering operation and it's in Eastern North Carolina in this charming hallmark Nicholas Sparks town. Nicholas Sparks does live in our town. He does eat at our restaurant, funny enough.
Oh, that's funny.
And so we were like, so we called the broker and we were like, oh, we want to shop this. And she was like, oh, can you come into town this weekend? And we were like, yeah. And so, we hopped in the car and drove 5-6 hours north and drove over the bridge to this waterfront little town and fell in love. And we were like, this is it.
So you packed up and bought the business and moved to the town.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow,
it, buying a business is not for the faint of heart. And it was like, I mean, just the paperwork itself and the vetting, and when you go through, the financial stuff, it was not fun. It was an experience in and of itself. I feel like I could be an SBA consultant at this point.
That's funny. So walk me through the first year then of buying a restaurant, because this is a completely different business model than paving.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, my husband has been in the hospitality industry from Cape Cod down to Fort Lauderdale and kind of knows, I mean, that's his thing. He can look at a P-mix sheet, as they say, and tell you what's wrong and how to fix it. It is not my industry. And so I said, okay, well, the first year while we're here doing restaurant things, I will not do nonprofit things. I will be behind the curtain and do it was like we walked in, great. I mean, this restaurant that we bought, I'll tell you, acquisitions, number one, the restaurant industry is extremely volatile.
Yes.
You are running very short profit margins. Just the labor pool is really small. The staff in and of itself is very unique. So, which that could be a whole podcast on how to support your staff and the culture of the restaurant industry. So the first thing we did, first meeting with our staff, we walked in and we said, okay, we're switching to pure butter. And this is going to be a respectful culture. There will be no yelling. There will be no profanity. We will all respect each other because, restaurant industry is brutal, apparently. It's, again, not my industry. It's things I've heard.
Yep.
And so for me, it's been a pretty large learning curve, just learning the industry. My husband, he just soars in it. This is like what he was really born to do, even though he'll tell you he was born to wake up and go fish, come back and take a nap and live that European lifestyle. But so the first year has been great. We were, it was kind of like a game. It was, because this restaurant's been around 30 years. It's really iconic in this area. You're coming to a small southern town. So if you change the menu, we were going to be crucified on the front lawn. And so it was like, literally when we would meet people, I mean, extremely hospitable people. Hey, I'm Jill. Oh, you just bought the Chelsea. Don't get rid of the shrimp and grits. And it was like, oh, nice to meet you too, So it's been a delicate transition. But
So you're not just dealing with a restaurant in of itself, you're also now like dealing with town culture, which is a whole other
yes.
level of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
that's also a very Southern thing to me.
It is very, and I'll tell you, like I come from southern small town, obviously, and so I know how it is. But my husband's like Boston or Fort Lauderdale, and so he's very like sharp, cut and dry, and I'm like, you cannot say these things. And so when we get this, like we changed the chicken on a dish to blackened chicken because it does taste better. And we got called out on it, and they were like, you can't change. So it's just been delicate. It's been great and welcoming, but very delicate.
You have to like add a new dish in and not tell anybody and just let it be there and then swap it out and
So,
just
well, yeah, so
stealthily.
he wrote a Saturday brunch menu and kind of slid it in there, and it's been well received. And he's working on like a steak a la carte type menu this week. So we'll see what happens there.
I love it. Okay, so one of your superpowers is assess, fix, and scale. So let's talk a little bit about how when you go into either a restaurant or a company
Mhm.
or a nonprofit, like what's your process that you go through to accomplish that?
Yep. So it's I observe. But first, I'm observing what the culture is. If it's, if you don't have buy-in from your staff, you're plummeting off the bat.
Mm,
What's the leadership like? Culture comes from top down. So if your leaders are not, if they're not coaching, if they're not invested, if they walk around with a scowl on their face, that's what the staff's doing. And we talked a little bit earlier about EOS, big fan of EOS. I think if you're investing in a startup, if you're acquiring, whatever the case is, if you're just managing it, not just, but if you are managing a team on any level, you have to read the book Traction and at least pull some pieces from that. And so I look at the org chart and, we fill in the boxes. Here's the ideal org chart. And then are the people in place the right people? And when you're filling in, when you're putting people in those boxes for those jobs, again, EOS, you're asking three questions. Do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity for it? GWC, get it, want it, capacity. And if they don't need to be there. They need to be in another position. And so once you get your team in place, then you're assessing programs or the products that you're offering. The market assessment. Are you meeting a need? If you're not meeting a need, for instance, at our restaurant, I can tell you all day what I would like to serve. Is it going to sell? Probably not. So I'm going to sell what sells in our restaurant and what people are buying. Same with a nonprofit. If I'm serving the homeless here and if there's two homeless people in my town, what am I here for? So you have to have this high level of discernment for the organizational purpose and then, piecing together the nuts and bolts later on.
So how do you approach leadership, especially like dealing with a leadership team and getting buy-in, getting them to buy into the new vision you have for that? Because I'm going to assume just from my own experiences being in corporations that got bought out and having the new corporations not get buy-in,
Yeah.
they were bossy in the negative, non-productive way.
Mhm.
What's your approach when you come into a new company? Obviously, you're looking at the culture, but then how do you, I guess, share the vision with them to get them to go, oh yeah, this is actually a better direction where we were headed.
I think you have to spend time learning and observing first. If I come in off the bat and I'm the know-it-all and pointing my finger and I'm, the bossy one, people are looking at me and rolling their eyes. We came into the day that we took over was the day that our team at the restaurant learned that the restaurant had sold. No one had an idea a second
Oh,
before
they
that.
didn't even know it was for sale, huh?
They did not know it was for sale at all. So it was very interesting. And we literally had 3 seconds to make an impression. And a couple days later, we held a staff meeting and we told them about ourselves and how excited we were to be there. And I was honest. I think that one of the best things that you can do is uphold your integrity, and be transparent. If you're not transparent, you're losing people. There's no trust there. And I said I have zero restaurant industry experience. I have no idea about any of this. I've ran large teams. I can run and build a budget. I can do marketing. I cannot carry a tray of food. I am not going to be the best hospitable person that is serving a table. I know nothing about, white wines, whatever the case is. And I think that was, they respect that of I'm not coming in here to tell you how to do your job. I want to learn from you. And for me it was fun. I get to be the fun parent at the restaurant. Because I said, we'll buy this as long as I don't have to hire or fire people.
That's your husband's job.
That's my husband's job. He's great at it. And I was like, I'm just not doing it. So I get to be the fun parent, at the restaurant and do like social media and the marketing and all the like fun PR stuff. Um, but I think too, you just have to come in and build this culture of respect. And it is not the way that it's ran for since day one. They know what to expect. They know the expectations of all of us, and it, comes down to the experience of for the guest. And there's always going to be a conversation. It's never going to be you're doing this wrong or you suck at this or whatever the case is. It's going to be hey, tell me about this, what happened and how can we fix it. So it really just comes down to, I think, integrity and culture.
So how did the growth go for the first year of the company? Were you guys able to successfully do what you did before, or did you double?
Yeah, we were up 2% over year, and 2% may not sound like a
In the
lot, but
restaurant industry?
yes, and when you get up, into the millions, I mean, it's pretty significant.
Wow.
And yeah,
So how many staff do you have at the restaurant?
right now we have 62.
Yeah. It's just like just trying to track all those individuals and schedules is yeah,
Yeah.
that's quite something. So how do you ensure your employees stay happy with with a mix that big? Do you have like are you working just with your managers, or are you kind of boots on the ground working with everyday employees as well?
Yeah, so for instance, today I was in there shooting some content for social media, and it was before we opened, and some of our team was in there. Some of our line cooks and servers, they were in on it. I was like, okay, well, what kind of ideas? I mean, it was just kind of a team effort, and it was fun. But one of the things, I mean, money talks, right? Like people at the
Sure.
end of the day, you can show up with a pizza or donuts or, Dunkin' coffees or whatever. People want more money. They want to be able to live comfortably or pay their bills. And so week 2 that we were there, we looked at wages and we were like, this is not okay. Like this is not where it should be. And so every single person back of house in the kitchen, all of our kitchen staff got sizable um, raises and wage increases on week 2 that we were there to bring them up to where they were supposed to be. And I understand not everybody's able to do that,
Sure.
when you acquire something. We had accounted for that in the acquisition. And so, but it was, I mean, that was one of the first changes that we made, because if you can't compete on, pay rate wise, you're going to have a high, I mean, in this industry, the turnover rate is astronomical anyway for a million
Sure.
different reasons.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot with it.
Yeah, I was really shocked, like at the, mid and what happened to that industry during COVID and watching what's going on, like just going down the street and seeing Panda Express, tiny little Panda Express, and it was like line cooks, $28 an hour. I was just
Yeah.
like, whoa. I was just like,
Yeah.
it was amazing to see that because the turnover was so high and they needed the people. All right, so
Hmm.
you've had a lot of success on a lot of different things, and even though you said you'd never do a startup, you did one anyway. So let's talk a little bit about what you've learned with Cardberry. First off, like, for the people listening, explain what Cardberry is.
Yeah, so Cardberry is a startup. It's a greeting card subscription service, and in short, it's for those that want to maintain a connection, but kind of have a lot on their plate with all the adult tasks that you have in your life. And so you subscribe. It's $11.99 a month. You add in your special occasions or events. So you add in your anniversary, your child or your spouse's birthday. Then we send you email reminders, and in that email, when you open it, it'll say, "Hey Jill, Ron's birthday is coming up. Pick one of these 4 card designs." You click one time on a card design, and the card is in the mail to either, you or your recipient. And so the goal is really to simplify connecting with others. And you don't want to discount connecting or showing people that you care, or that you're thinking about them. But let's be honest, like, who wants to run to a Walgreens and stand in this sea of overwhelming card designs and then wait 20 minutes for checkout, because that's what happens. if you have kids, you're having to, I mean, car seats are a pain in their own rim to get kids in and out of car seats. And so it's, I mean, if they're not bringing it to my car, I'm not going in. Walgreens, I don't think brings it to your car, at
No.
least in North Carolina. So Cardberry really just makes it convenient to care.
All right. So what have been some of the challenges that you faced going with a startup, and what have been some of the big lessons that you're going to take with you into other businesses that you're running?
Yeah. So when my husband, the visionary, came home and said, "Hey, this is what we're doing, and you're great at systems and resourceful, and you can figure this out, and I know you can make it work and take lead on this." And my tech, I am stuck in the era of print and master gold in literally 2001, okay? So if I hope someone at least knows that reference of what greeting cards you could design in print and master gold, a CD-ROM, and you had 6 of them that you could choose. It
It
was
took you
terrible.
3 hours to get it
Right, took
figured
you
out,
3 hours, and your printer wouldn't work. It's terrible.
and
Anyway,
you thought you were amazing because you printed a card.
right, exactly. Poor quality, whatever. And so I started researching and I got paired with a tech consultant who was phenomenal and carried us through this. We worked with a software developing company overseas, and kind of created this back end system, this subscription system that's now patented from start to finish. Created all these card designs, and it's just been a learning experience. I've not dove into, the tech world that much other than like the daily task things. And it's been a great it's been a great learning experience, but also a challenge as well, which, I mean, you need to get out of your comfort zone, right?
Sure. So, like with the tech, what are one or two things that surprised you when you had to start building tech systems from scratch?
I thought it was gonna be a lot easier. Like, how hard can it be to add a button or to change, to create, I mean, I can build a Squarespace website, but when you have this high volume subscription backend, portal that you're running, it's much different apparently. And it takes time and a lot of money really to build these software developments. And then, I mean, fundraising, we're not doing fundraising right now. Maybe not ever, I don't know, but it's, and then there's this wave of AI. And so now there's conversation of how can we utilize AI and how can that help our subscribers and what's the value add there. And so it's just this evolving learning platform that I feel like I'm listening to more and more tech startup podcast.
People would have told you
And
2 years ago.
oh, never. I would never have done any of this. It's been great though. It's been, I mean, I've been connected with people overseas and people that have built these AI tools that can create basically people that you survey, your potential customers. I mean, I tell you what has been the most difficult part is acquisition of subscribers. It's kind of learning who your potential subscribers are, where do they live and play, and then how to get in front of them. So,
So yeah, and that's quite a bit different in terms of the marketing, say for the restaurant, right?
yeah.
Or
Oh,
paving
yeah.
business. So how has your marketing strategies had to adjust to being essentially a tech platform?
Well, I'm used to relationship building. Have been in fundraising for so long that it's that face-to-face relationship building more on a micro level, even with national nonprofits. Even our restaurant, I mean, it's face-to-face. And so when you run a tech company, you're relying on social media and tech and paid ads and Google AdWords and things like that. And so it's been a learning curve for me, and I've had to rely on our product consultant, which is, it's, as a person who's always kind of done it myself, it's hard to it's hard to kind of relinquish that and rely on okay, I trust you, I guess, that this is going to work. So
Well, there's aspects of my business where, as a writer, So I was in Hollywood for 15 years. I was really good at writing screenplays. And when I took a hiatus, I'm like, I'm going to turn my screenplays into fiction books.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different skill set.
Yeah.
And it was really hard for the first year. It was hard for me to accept the fact of like, I'm really good over here and here I'm a beginner. Because boy, my ego did not want to say, I'm not a beginner. I don't have to start. But I'm like, I got to start from ground zero. I got to start with the very basic stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's a big one.
fail over and over and over again.
Oh God, don't remind me. No. Then I write something that's great and I get feedback on it and they poke all the holes in it. You're like, I'm never gonna get this.
Yep. I know. The last 2 weeks I've kind of just, or maybe probably more closer to 2 months, honestly. I'm just like, I cannot with Cardberry right now. Like I just need to take a step back. And so I had to call our product consultant this morning. I almost canceled. And as soon as I opened up my screen, he was like, I knew you were going to try to cancel, but I wasn't going to let you because you need to jump back on the machine. And I was like, okay.
Well, at least you got them holding you accountable. Well, this is
Yeah.
so what's the vision for both the Chelsea and Cardberry? Let's end there, and I'll have a few final questions, and we'll wrap things up.
I think acquisition is the name of the game, honestly. Well, for us. And so, and we're kind of more hands off. I mean, we get into some of the weeds of the
Mhm.
restaurant, but the goal is in the next 2 years, we want to acquire another restaurant that has real estate or something, maybe not a restaurant, but another business that commercial real estate is kind of our key right now. One of the fun things, again, my husband, the visionary, he has found a way to fish all the time as he just bought a boat and acquired a
Mm,
commercial fishing license to to catch these fish. So from boat to the kitchen at the Chelsea
that's
is kind
funny.
of the next thing.
So in LA,
Um,
that's the farm to table, right? They
yeah,
pick it at the
yeah,
farm in the morning and bring it straight to the restaurant. So he's doing that
yeah,
with fish.
yeah.
Your
So
husband sneakily found a way to justify that big boat.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, he's resourceful. But no, it's just, acquisition. Cardberry is we're going to move into the B2B phase, so we'll work with real estate firms, insurance firms, CPA firms to basically say, let us into your CRM and let's put a personal touch on your customer service and design and brand some cards, some happy birthday or thank you for being with us 1 year or, come back to us, whatever that may be.
Yep.
And we'll handle everything. We log into your CRM, we send the cards out. It's just this more hyper focused personal touch. And it again, just trying to improve people's stories.
I love it. All right. Well, I like to end every interview with three questions for you personally. So if you could go
Okay.
back in time, give
Mhm.
your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be and why?
Oh man, that's a good question.
I saved the good stuff for last.
Yeah, okay. So I'd probably have two pieces of advice. I would tell myself to go to grad school in a large city, outside of the South, just for that exposure and experience. And then I would um, I would have double majored in grad school and not only gotten my MSW, my Master's of Social Work, but also my JD.
Oh,
I've
wow.
thought about going back to law school just to have, that knowledge. But that's what I would have done. I would have taken that extra year and a half and just ran the race a little further.
That's funny. My mentor in Hollywood started in law, and then after 4 years was kind of tired of it, and he eventually became a producer, worked on some huge names, produced huge movies, but he always kept his
Mhm.
license active. And I remember towards the end of his career, we were doing something, and he was tearing apart a contract. Oh, this is wrong.
Mhm.
And somebody was like, I feel like I should go to law school so I can be on top of this stuff. And he just stopped and he said, don't do that. He's like, the only thing my law degree has been good for is to let me know when my attorney's trying to overbill me.
Well, from experience and hindsight, that's why I would want it because I've worked with a lot of attorneys on a lot of business contracts over the last 10 years.
That
And
would have saved you
man,
a
oh man,
lot.
I wish I had that JD.
That's funny. All right. So what belief or mindset shift has had the biggest impact on your success?
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. We really, I'm a longer table, not higher fence type person, and so to do well in life, you have to do good. Our one thing I think that our employees really value and at the restaurant is it's not just a paycheck for them. That we've helped secure housing.
Wow.
We have helped on all different levels of resources and as a way of just, I mean, we want to invest in our people because not everybody is as fortunate as we are, and so we like to give back as much as possible.
Well, what a fantastic sort of meshing of your background and skills, though,
Yeah.
because you were in the social works and you saw the things that most people are probably completely oblivious to. So that
Mhm.
allows you to come with a different perspective. That's beautiful. That's one of the coolest things I've heard yet. Final question is, what's the best investment you've ever made in yourself?
Oh, the best investment I've ever made in myself. Um, I think I told myself a long time ago in my early 20s um, that it was me that I could count on. And I was going to be reliable for myself. But with reliability comes accountability. And so it was kind of like this internal accountability of if you make this decision, you're going to pay for it good or bad, 10, 20 years down the road. And so I just remember driving in my car. I was right out of grad school, and I was at a crossroads, and I was like, okay, if I don't invest in myself, and if I don't gain a very great sense of self-worth, nobody's going to hand that to me. Like it's like nobody's going to hand it to me. And so it's kind of like I made a pact with myself of I'm just going to take every great opportunity that comes my way and put my head down and make it. Because if I don't, then I'm going to end up in a place where I don't want to be. And I kind of put it was kind of like, okay, fun's great. And yeah, you have fun in your 20s or whatever. But I don't know. It was just kind of like, I wanted to focus on what my future would look like.
Hmm, I love it. Well, so if someone's your way and they want to go to the Chelsea, how do they find it? Where do they go? Maybe somebody's not, maybe they're in LA, but they still want to check it out.
Yes.
how do they get
We
come
would
into the
love,
Chelsea's
yeah,
world?
we would love to have you or anybody who may be listening to this. So we are in New Bern, North Carolina, in the historic downtown. Our building was built in 1913, and our first tenant was Caleb Bradham, who was the inventor of Pepsi. So his Pepsi pharmacy was in our building. Very
Wow.
cool. Yes, Elvis also ate there in the 50s before he was like, the king of rock and roll. But anyway, no, New Bern, North Carolina. You can go to thechelsea.com. Or let me know that you're coming. Shoot me an email, jill@thechelsea.com.
Awesome. Jill, thank you so much for your time. This has been
Yeah,
fantastic.
thank you. It's been fun.